Hello and welcome to the sixth, I believe, workflow series. I am so excited to be back here with you for another episode. So, I am Aron Korenblit. I'm a senior product community educator here at Webflow. And yeah, I'm really excited to be back, and I'm seeing so much excitement in the chat. So, welcome Adei from Nigeria. Welcome Ariel from Poland. Fiorella from Peru, Mike from what I think is Scottsdale, Arizona, or some other desert. Tori, welcome as well. We've got Zach as well. So, welcome everybody to this. There are some kind of announcements or things to share before we jump in here. But as I'm kicking this off, I would love for everyone, let me know where you're joining me from today in the chat. It brings me so much joy to see all of you. We've got Mohammed from Pakistan, Varzi from Philly. Welcome, welcome. Got Peter from Sardinia. Wow. We've got Mr. Webbay from San Francisco. Super Darren from the UK, from Chile, folks from all over the world. And this is why I love coming on here every 2 weeks and meeting all of you. And hopefully you can take away from this episode something that you can go ahead and offer clients, or if you're an in-house team, expand what you're able to do with your Webflow website. So I'm seeing a lot of new faces in the chat. So just quickly, what is the workflow series? Every 2 weeks, I come on here and try to expand what you're able to do in Webflow. So Webflow can help you build beautiful websites. I want to teach you how to make them powerful. And one thing we hear all the time is, how do I utilize the CMS better? So we wanted to start with a simple use case, which is the blog, and talk a little bit about how to structure it efficiently for a blog. But also, I hope you leave here with ideas of how to structure your CMS correctly for whatever use case you want to build in Webflow. So that was that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start with a blog design and turn it into a website in about 45 minutes. Now, a few announcements here. So the first is, you'll see at the top of the chat, there's a form you can submit. So this does two things. It'll put your name in the credits. And again, I just love, highlighting all of you on the stream, telling others that you've joined here. And you'll also get a title. So you'll get a very secret title that's in the credits. And we're going to get to that at the end. So make sure to submit that form. There's also the option to subscribe. What that means is you'll get an email every morning. Not every morning. Every morning that we go live, we'll send you an email letting you know what's today's topic. That's true for my stream. And it'll also be true for Nelson's Build With Me's that happen every other week on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. And maybe, sometime in the future, we'll do a stream that only folks who get the emails can watch. I'm just putting that out there. Maybe that's going to happen, maybe not. But if it does happen, it's definitely going to be only accessible to folks who subscribe, who join that emailing list. So yeah, really excited. Catching up on chat. Welcome, Penny. Welcome, Riley, Luis, Ollie. Really excited to have you all here. So one more thing before we jump into our topic today. I'm just going to go over to the browser before we jump into our topic. I want to talk about Webflow 101. So we launched Webflow 101 last week. I encourage you all to go check it out. Go ahead and check out Webflow 101. It is amazing. It is fun. Even if you're a Webflow expert, go watch it just for the jokes. One thing I will ask you all is that please stop asking for Greamer plushies. So one thing you may not know is I'm actually the person knitting all of these Greamer plushies, and my fingers hurt. So I've been really trying to keep up with demand in terms of the Greamer plushies. I can't. So, but keep watching it. That's all I ask. Keep watching Webflow 101. Keep sharing. We love the love. My fingers can't keep up. But maybe I should just stream me knitting the Greamer plushies. Maybe not. But no joke. This is a lot of fun. I love that. Okay, so do check out Webflow 101. Actually, Keegan, that's a great idea. Aron plushie versus a Greamer plushie. Maybe I should knit my own plushies. That would make more sense than me knitting Greamers. So yeah, if I'm not streaming, I'm knitting Greamer plushies. Okay, so that was what I wanted to share. First, go ahead, submit the form, subscribe if you want to. We might give some private streams in the future to only folks who subscribed. Second, go ahead and check out Webflow 101. It is amazing. Watch it for the knowledge or for just the joy of watching it. Yes, we should teach Greamer how to knit. Maybe that's my next workflow series. We just knit for an hour. That'd be a lot of fun, much less stressful. Okay, so scalable blog. So where I want to start here is I want to teach you how to build a scalable blog in about 45 minutes. But what's important to remember is that Webflow is not a blogging platform. The goal of Webflow is to give you the development superpowers to build whatever it is that you want on the web, right? And the things that enable you to do that are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and a database that holds that information. And one of the most popular use cases on Webflow, or that we get questions about, is blog, creating content on Webflow. So my goal today is to teach you how to take those building blocks, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and databases, to turn them into a blog. Now, maybe your use case is not a blog. Maybe it's event management. Maybe it's webinar management. Maybe it's a portfolio. But that's okay, because the structure or the information I teach you today will be applicable across all use cases. And really what I want to do today is start from zero, from really the basics, so you can understand to build whatever it is that you want on your Webflow website, whether that's events, anything really, using a CMS. So if you're here to learn how to build a blog, that's great. If you're here how to understand how to structure your CMS, even better. And it's going to apply across all use cases. So let me talk louder. If my sound is a little low, I'll bring it up. Yes, this is a keyboard. I'll show you how it works in just a moment. How are we going to build a scalable blog? So 3 steps today. First, we're going to plan our build. And I think this is the most important step that people often overlook when they're building in Webflow, is thinking about how to structure their collection and the fields that they need. If you don't know what a collection is, what fields are, and what items are, I'm going to explain it in this section as well, as we break down what it is that we need for our blog. Second, we're going to go take that planning, everything we've done, and put it into a template page so that we have the structure of our Webflow blog, or a blog template, I should say, that allows us to build a scalable blog. And then third, we're going to talk about optimization, things like page settings and SEO best practices, and then maybe things like form and leading them to the right place. Throughout this, I want you to feel super comfortable. Drop questions in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and bring them either throughout or at the end. So for all of you joining live, I appreciate, one of the benefits of joining live is that you can ask questions, and I'm here to answer those questions live on the stream. So do encourage you to drop them in the chat, and Nelson is helping me out to make sure that I don't miss any. So make sure to fill out the form, drop questions, and let's kick this off. So first step is to plan our build. So what I mean by that is, when you have a design or a structure, it's often very enticing to just go into Webflow and start building. But when you're building something scalable, something that you want to replicate 10, 20, 30 times using the CMS, it's important to understand what you're going to need. Because what you want to avoid is being too far into your build and realizing that you're missing some structure for scale. Now, if none of that makes sense, what I just said, let me explain. So we're going to go into Figma in FigJam. I'm learning the design softwares here. We're going to go into FigJam, and we're going to look at the design that's been proposed and understand what it is that we need in our Webflow structure to replicate that design. So let me know if that makes sense. I'm going to go and jump into Webflow here. Here we go. Let's go into Webflow. And let's go into Figma. I should have said Figma. Okay, so this is an amazing blog template page that was designed by none other than Skylar. So if Skylar, if you're in the chat, take a bow. This looks great. And our goal is to create the structure for this blog in about 45 minutes. Now, what's important to remember is that Webflow is teaching you, or allowing you to use, the fundamentals of the web. It's not a blogging platform. The advantage of that is, whether you're building one blog post or 10 or 20 or 30, you're going to be able to use this structure. So what we're going to do, everything we're going to do today scales to whatever scale you need it to go, whether that's one blog post or 100. So this is what we want to build. Now, one way you could build this, which is not what I would encourage you to do, is to go ahead and just start adding pages. So you can go into pages, add a page, and manually add a page for each blog post that you want to create. However, the issue there is that you're going to be reproducing the same steps over and over and over again. You're going to have to copy paste the structure and information like that, which is not what this stream is about. We're all about building things once and then scaling them up. When you think of a blog, there are only some elements that change for each blog post. There's the title, there's the image, there's the body, right? The text itself, and a few other elements in here. So it would be inefficient to create a new page for each one of those manually. So let's go ahead and understand what tools are here in Webflow to allow us to scale this structure or to this block. So I want to bring your attention to the concept right here of a collection, right? So collections are for information of the same type, right? So you might think of it as, let's create a database that has every single one of our blog posts, all of the information that changes in our blog post. So your collection are information of the same item. That might be blog posts, that might be events, that might be authors, tags. How you should think about it is your collection is the plural of whatever it is that you're tracking. So you'll have blog posts, and then each item in that collection is a blog post, is an event. And in Webflow, every single item you put into a collection will generate a page. Let me come here, right? So if I have 3 blog posts, it's going to generate 3 pages. And so instead of manually creating those pages, we'll simply create items in our CMS collection, which will generate a page. Now, if you just do this process, every page is going to be the same, right? However, what you want in your database is all of those different changes, all of the elements on the page, so that when you generate this page, you have the blog itself or the blog post as it should be. Now, let me know if I'm going either too quickly or too slowly in the chat. I want to make sure that this concept of collections and items are clear. So a collection, information of the same type. It might be events, authors, blog posts. And items are the individual elements of that type, right? So Moodbase mentioned, the day I figured out that collection can be custom built to be anything, I fell in love with Webflow. That is precisely my experience as well. Once you start realizing what the power of a CMS collection is, which is essentially generating pages automatically with the content that you want on those pages, you start realizing the power of CMS collection. So collections have items, items generate pages, and we want to track the changes on those pages or input them. So far, we understand collections, we understand items, those generate a page. Now, how do we actually specify what changes on each page? So I've clicked into the collection, I'm looking at one specific blog post, and then we'll have the concept of field. Fields are the information you want to track in each item in your collection, right? But it's also going to be what changes in your page. So for instance, if we look at our blog post template, we're going to have a title. That is going to change for each page. So we're going to go ahead and have a field that is title. The image is going to change. The body of the blog post is going to change. And so we're going to use a post body field. Now, I hope that as I'm explaining this, you can see the parallels with an event use case, event name, whether it's in person, who the speakers are, and information like that. So you can generate your event page automatically based on the information in the item, right? And this scales whether you have one blog post, 100 blog posts, 5,000 blog posts. You'll simply have to create items with the right fields to generate those pages. So I really wanted to spend some time on the theory, what the power of the CMS collection is before we jump in and start building. So I hope by this point you kind of understand what a collection is, elements of the same type. Items are those elements, those that kind of events, blog post one by one. And then fields are everything you want to track for each item in the collection. And that will allow you to create these dynamic pages. So Varsi thinks that's cool, and I completely agree with them. It is extremely cool. And let's put all of this into practice first. So if I go into my template page that was built by Skylar, thank you, Skylar, again. Let's identify the elements that are going to change. These are going to map to the fields in our collection. So if I look here, right, so this is not going to change. This is kind of the header of my blog. The first thing I see is I have this title. So what we're going to do, if my FigJam skills are good enough, let's just put a square around everything that changes. We're going to make this transparent, no fill. Right, and let's make the outline. Can I change the outline? I think I can. There we go. Okay, so let's just, right, there we go. So the title is going to change. Now I actually missed one right above. If we zoom in here, the date is also going to change. So this is going to be another field in our collection. So let me just copy paste. Let's bring that up. That's another element. This little description is also going to change for each one of my blog posts. Now, you might say, like, is this valuable? Is doing this planning useful? And I can guarantee you, as you build more complex websites, more complex collections, this becomes extremely important, right? So let's go here. There's a question in the chat, how do you scale beyond 30 fields? And often what I found is people don't necessarily structure their CMS correctly and kind of have either fields they don't necessarily need, but that is currently a limitation of Webflow. So we have our date, a title, a description maybe, little tags that link to all blog posts of that same type. Then let's go ahead and add in our image. That's also going to change. And so we're simply identifying the different fields in our template page that are going to change, that will map to the fields that we need. Then if I zoom out here, we have our body. So let's kind of copy paste there. Let's get our whole body like that. So just for a simple blog post, we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different elements that are different fields that we're going to need in our collection. And then we have this related posts. So this is something that's clearly going to change for each one of our blog posts, but folks who are familiar with CMSs might kind of talk about how are we going to handle that. It's going to be a little tricky. So where are we in our build? We've now identified that we need a blog post collection. Every item, you can go ahead and add, every item is going to be in page, and we've identified the different fields that we need for our collection. So let's go into Webflow and let's structure our template page. So coming back here, that was step 1. So planning your build. Again, I do want to stress that how important this is, because if you build your CMS without thinking of your structure first, you might hit roadblocks down the road. So our step 2 here is to go ahead, go into Webflow and build the outline of this page while also creating the fields that we need in our collection. So we can go over to step 2 here. I'm going to jump into Webflow and we're going to build our CMS collection from scratch and create the outline of our page. So let me go back into Webflow here like that. And we're back here. Awesome. And oops, we're right here. That is the final, the clonable that you can go ahead and download right away. This is where we're going. And I have a blank website, right? So as I mentioned, we want to go ahead and create a collection that we're going to call blog posts, right? Simply like that. We're going to create that collection. We're going to save those changes. And let's go ahead and add 5 items. Sure, why not? So it's going to give us 5 different blog posts. And if we go over here and now have this blog post template in our CMS collection pages, if I click into it, it's blank, right? But we do have 5 blank pages, 1 for each item we created. So if I go back over here, what we've done is we've just created this right here. We've created our blog post collection. We have 5 items, and we have 5 blank pages. So now it's time to go ahead and create our CMS structure to fill out these pages. So if I go over here to my design, I have a title or a date. So I need a date field in my collection. Let's go here, blog post. And we're going to be mainly working with, let's say, how to improve web design process, right? And let's go into the settings of that blog post. And let's add a custom field. Now, this is saying I want to track this information for every item in my collection. So let's go ahead and add a date field. And I'm going to call this publish date. Let's save that field. There we go. And let's make sure to update it for at least one item, how to approve. And let's put the publish date to yesterday. So let's go into our template. Let's go here and let's add a little bit of text. Now let me just kind of structure this. Let's put a section just so everyone could see. Let's put a container in that section. Let me give myself a little bit more here. Now, I don't know if it's my mouse being difficult. Okay, here we go. There we go. So let's put the container in the section. Let's put that text there, and let's just give ourselves some margin like that. And now what we want is this text, we want it to be the published date. So we need to connect it to that field that we just created. So I have published date. So it updates to that date. So now, if we go over to the other blog post, you'll see that it's empty because we haven't filled out that information, but now it is dynamic. So we are dynamically creating that element, pulling it from the item. So next, and I'm going to speed up here a little bit as we do this, is the title. So let me just go ahead and add an H1. Let's add it to the container. And again, we're going to get the text from blog post. And we're going to pull it from the name. Now, I do want to spend a moment here that's very important, that if we go into blog posts, you'll notice that if I go to how to improve web design, the name is a default field on all CMSs. So it is basic info, it is both required, and it informs the slug. The slug is the ending, it is the URL. It is the URL for that specific item, and you'll notice that it takes the name and adds dashes. If you want another title for your blog post, you can go ahead and create a title field in your CMS collection. So let's go here. We're just going to simply use the name of the blog post of the item as our title. Keep going here. Next, we have a description, a sub-description. So let me copy paste this text. We're going to go ahead and add the field. And let's make this a plain text field. And we're going to call this description. Let's save that field. And let's update the one blog post we're working with, which is how to improve web design. Save that. All right. Let me know if I'm going too quickly, too slowly in the chat. I want to make sure that this is valuable for you all. I'm happy to speed up a little bit if we're feeling that this is, no knowledge, if you will. So let's add it here. And we're going to get the text, and we're going to get it from description. For some reason, I'm having a little bit of trouble today. Let's go here. And now we have our sub description. Now I'm not worried about the look of my template page. I'm simply trying to go through the structure. Now, this is going to be the fun part for folks. Here we have development and how to. Now, I spoke to Skylar, and Skylar in the blog wants, when someone clicks on development, to go to all blog posts that are tagged development, right? And now you could imagine, well, is this a text? Do we simply want to add a text and then make it link? Well, no, because we want it to be dynamic, right? We want to be able to say this blog post is related to the development tag, and it's also related to the how-to tag, and we want it to link to another CMS collection, which has all of the development-related blog posts. So this is where I'm going to introduce a special field type called the reference field. So now I'm going to go here, and I'm going to introduce reference fields. And we're going to have a multi-reference. We're going to call this tags. Now you'll notice that we want to reference an existing collection, which we don't have. We don't have the concept of tags. So let's go ahead and add a new collection. Let's say that changes, which we're going to call tags, which is only going to have a name and a slug. Let's create that collection. Let's go to blog posts. And let's go into reference fields, and let's call this tags. And we're going to tie this to tags. So now we're going to be able to say this blog post is related to this tag. Let's save that field. Now let's create a few tags first. So let me create a development tag. Let me create what else did we have? We had a design, interesting. There we go. And one more tag, just call this interesting. Now, reference field, I think, are one of the less understood concepts in Webflow, right? So now I can associate a blog to certain tags. I can say this is design and development, right? But remember our principles. We also now have template pages. Let's save that. For tags. So here I have a page for design, I have a page for development, and I have a page for interesting. And we could have a collection of all of our blog posts that are development, interesting, design. So let's kind of go one by one. Let's go here, and let's go ahead and add our tags for right here. So what we want to do here is we want to add a collection list. We're going to tie it to tags. And let's simply add a link block in each one. And let's add some text. And we're going to link to the current tag. So let me add some text as well here. And let's get text from tags. And let's get name. So here, if I bring this into my container, like so, I now have that specific blog post link to that tag page. And if I create a CMS collection on that page, I'll be able to say, if you click here, you're going to see all blog posts related to design. If you're going to click here, you're going to see all blog posts related to development. So now we've used the multi-reference field type to create that connection. I just want to show you how it would work on another blog post just to make sure that that is clear. So let me go here. Let me go 7 ways to improve. Let's give it some publish date. And let's say this is a test title. Let's pick some tags. Design and interesting. Great. I'm seeing some questions around single reference versus multi-reference. That's great. Multi-reference allows you to create multiple tags, and single reference is kind of like an option field, but allows you to link to that CMS collection. Let's save. 7 ways to improve. Let's go here. 7 ways to improve. We now have design and interesting. So we're connecting information across our collections to say this links to design and interesting. And that has big SEO impacts that I'll talk when we talk about optimization. So we're almost done. Believe it or not, we're almost done with our blog structure. So let me come here and let's look at this right here. So here we have an image. So we can go ahead and go into our collection, blog post. Let's add an image field. Let's go and let's call this, thumbnail or header image maybe. Let's save that field. Let's go into save that collection. Let's go into we've been working on how to improve web design. And let's load in an image. I'm going to grab one from our final template because these look really, really good. Maybe this one right here. Okay, let me download that. Oh, it's a little small. Let me grab the actual URL, some pro tips here. There we go. Download that. And let's upload that one right here. Let's save. And let's go ahead and embed, not embed is not the right word. Let's put an image field element into the page. Let's do Control K, I always forget. Image, actually not out, let's go out of here. Image, boom. And let's image from blog post and let's get the header image. And we can include some alt text. So we've been working on how to improve web design. We now have our image. And I'll talk about alt text in a moment at the end. So again, keep dropping questions in the chat. Let me know if I'm going too quickly or too slowly. And make sure you can go ahead and fill out the form at the top to be in the credits at the end and be notified when we go live and when we do private streams. So Tino mentions, when can you request potential topics? You can email me, aron.korenblit@webflow.com, or drop them in the comments. In every video, I read every one of your comments, and I'm always interested in learning what you want to go ahead and create. So let's go ahead and add, what is next? Our next is the body. We simply are at the body. So we can add a rich text field. So this is essentially adding rich text to our blog post, and it's going to have the body of our post. So let's go here, blog posts, settings, and let's add rich text, and we're going to call this body or blog post body. Let's save that field, and let me copy paste this lorem ipsum right here. Oh, can I not copy paste this one? Oh, okay, this one's in the, sorry, I thought it was in Figma. Let's grab a few here. Let's grab that as an H1. Let's save these changes. Let's go how to improve web design. Let's make this an H1. Let's grab some of that. And one more, just so we have some subheader. All right, Ayub, I'm glad you're enjoying this. Appreciate that. Great. So we're just adding some text. We can make this a quote. Again, not in Figma. There we go. And make this a quote. There we go. Okay. So now, oops. There we go. I know Skylar is watching and would like me to style this properly and make all the spacing correct. So let's go here and let's add in that element into our blog post. So rich text field. Let me add it into the container. There we go. And let's get text from blog post and blog post body. Let me refresh one more time. Whew. All right, we've got our blog post. So the last element I want to talk to you about, we're going to spend about 5 minutes here before we talk about tips. I'm going to go ahead and answer your questions in the chat, is this field right here. So related posts. Now you might say, okay, well, we just learned that if we want to associate information across, whoops, I should be here, across collections, we should use a reference field. We could imagine using a reference field within blog posts to say this blog post is related to those blog posts. right? So I have a blog post about design, and I want to tag and say these blog posts are related to this post. So we can use a reference field. That is one approach. Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. That is not necessarily the right approach. And I want to explain to you why. So let's go into Webflow here. Let's create a reference field, a multi-reference field, just like we did before. So I'm saying multi-reference field, and this is related blog posts. And I could say this is referencing, I was going to say related, but it's referencing the blog post collection. Let's save that field. Let's go into blog post, how to improve web design, and say, okay, well, this blog post is related to, let me zoom in here. Oops, it's zooming in the wrong way. There we go. It's related to 5 web design and 20 myths about design. Now, the advantage of this approach is that we have to manually say this blog post is associated to those blog posts. We're saying this blog post is associated to this and it's associated to that. That is a disadvantage because we're going to have to do that every time. So if we go here, we can now save changes. Just like we did with tags, we can go ahead and add a collection, right? So we can go here, we can go here. Really losing it today. We can go ahead and add a collection list of related blog posts, just like we did with the tags. Now, a fair question that you could ask is, well, why don't we just embed the blog posts that already have the tags, right? Why don't we just use the fact that we are tagging our blog posts to filter on the related blog posts? And I think that's a better approach. So when you think about it, every time you create a blog post, you're already saying this is a design blog post. This is a development blog post. So ideally, what is shown here are give me other blog posts in my collection that have similar tags or that at least have tags in common with the blog post the user is on. Now, that is a better approach. So we're going to go ahead and do that one. So I'm not going to use the reference field. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add another collection. Let me go Control K here. Collection. And where is it going? We're going to have our CMS collection be related to blog posts. And let's see where this is. It's over here. Let me refresh. And let's add just maybe a title. So let's add the text field in our collection item. Not sure why it's not letting me go there. Control K, text. Here we go. And let's add not text block here, not text link. There we go. And where is that on my page? Let me refresh. Really having trouble today. Right here. And let me go ahead and remove this. And we want here to be the title of a blog post. So we can say get text from blog post and get the name. Now, currently, these are all of my blog posts. That is not what we want. We only want the blog posts that have similar tags. So we can go into the settings and we could filter. Let me go on the collection list here. And let's go ahead and filter on the right and filter the collection. Let me zoom out here. I can't see it. By tags that contain any tags of current blog posts. So we're essentially saying take the list of blog posts and filter it down to those that have tags similar to the collection page we are on, the item we are looking at. If we save that, we now only have our 2 blog posts. And in the design, we can go ahead and check. We only want 2, even if there are 3 or more. We can go ahead and filter or limit the number of kind of items we get. Let me go here. Limit items. We want to show 2. start at 1. We can also remove the one we're currently on by starting at 2. And let's sort this by date, published date, newest to oldest. So that we now have a more scalable structure, because every time we tag a blog post, we're also creating that filtered collection on blog post collection pages. Does that make sense? I'm saying the word item, collection, pages. Essentially, we no longer need this related blog post because we're using our existing tags to filter. And this will allow you to scale much, much more and have more SEO value. So we're about 15 minutes from the end here. I have one more thing to talk to you about. Let's go ahead and delete this related blog post. Let's go here. Let's trash this field, delete. There we go. We don't need it. And with that, we've actually built our template page. What we've taken we've taken one page, we've created the date, the title, subdescription, tags, image, body, and have a scalable way of creating connections between our blog posts to create a scalable blog. And again, whether you have one blog post, 10, 15, 20, this will scale 20, 200, 2,000. This will scale to that number without any issues. Okay, so that was the first two things I wanted to show you. So we've talked about how to plan your build, how to understand which fields you need. Then we've built out our template page. Now I just very quickly want to talk about some SEO settings and just some best practices here. So I want to talk to you about what control you have and just some very basic best practices. And I want to show you what a finished product could look like. And now is a good time to go ahead and fill out the form at the top if you want to see your name in the credits and what title you're going to get. So you can go ahead and brag to others about what you got in this episode. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them. I'm seeing some questions in Slack. Let me go check. All right. Okay, we got some questions. Great. So let's keep those questions coming. Fill out the form. And I want to talk about some settings that you should be aware of as you're building your blog in Webflow. So let's go back to the browser. Okay. And let's go into the filled out. This is a clonable. So I saw some folks that love the design and you can go ahead and clone this. So it's in the description. If it's not, I'm going to go ahead and make sure it is. You can go ahead and clone this beautiful blog template built by Skylar. What I really want to bring your attention to is the page settings. So here in page settings, you have SEO settings for your page. And this is what Google is going to pick up and show when looking at your website. So the first thing I want to bring attention is the title tag. And what's important is you can reuse the fields in your CMS collection. So here I'm saying what I want to appear in Google or other search engines is the name of my item, my title as well, and then the daily stand-up. Also in meta description, I think a best practice is to keep it under 250 characters. You could also include it right here. Now, as I'm explaining this, you also can enforce some best practices within the CMS collection. So let's say that you want to limit the short description to a number of characters. You can go into the CMS, into articles, and then into subtitle or short description settings and say we only want short descriptions between 50 and 200 characters for this short description. And that becomes important when you're trying to scale your blog, ensuring that folks inputting information are inputting it according to SEO best practices or what's important for your company or for your use case. Now, this is useful in SEO, but it could be useful for the title as well. Maybe in your design, you want the title to be limited in terms of number of characters so it keeps the same structure. So it has impact in terms of page settings, right? So making sure that you are following SEO best practices. But in general, as your blog scales, you want to make sure that folks are inputting information according to what your desires are. Somewhere else where this comes into play is the open graph settings, and in particular, the open graph image, right? So here you have title. This is what happens when someone shares your content on social media. It has a title, has a URL, a short description, and an image. And you could select an item from your CMS collection, from your CMS collection to be that cover image. And there as well, you can create rules to make sure that image is not too large. So if I go over to cover image, I can say you can only upload image that are a certain size to not slow down your website. You can also enforce sizing, right? So if you have an image for social media and you want to make sure that it has specific width or height, you can go ahead and enforce that in the CMS collection. So those are just some of the best practices I wanted to share with you in terms of building your blog and scaling your blog on Webflow. I also wanted to dive into how to connect forms to other systems if you want subscribers. But if you're interested in that, check out the stream I did on how to connect Webflow to HubSpot or to Airtable or MailChimp. There are 2 streams about that at the beginning. So I don't think we'll have time. We have a lot of questions to get to. Cool. Okay. So let me get into questions here. We have now covered everything. Let me reset the agenda here. We planned our build. We went ahead and built our template page, and we've seen some optimized best practices, and you can go ahead and get the clonable to kind of start your blog. If you haven't already, go ahead and do that. I want to get to some questions here. Okay. A lot of questions. Hope some have been answered. Let me remove this. Okay. So there's a question, will you be showing how to sort blog posts on categories and tags? I think we've done that. So yes, use the reference field or the multi-reference field. Let me hide the agenda here. There we go. Okay. Can we change the order of the fields inserted in the CMS? I believe the answer is no. Let's go ahead and check. Let me check really quickly. Let me go into settings. The answer is yes, actually. You can change the order. Let me go into here, browser. Simply collect here and move them around. You can do that. If you want to kind of manage the CMS outside of Webflow and sync to that collection, you can go ahead and do that using Whale Sync. And I did a stream on a couple months ago on how to programmatic SEO, and realizing I should have done this stream first and then that one, but unfortunately we did that one first. So go check that out around how to programmatically manage these fields in any way that you want. Manage these items and with the fields in any place that you want, but you can reorder the items. Okay. Let's go back here. So question from Marcus, can multiple image be used in a grid in the rich text field, or is it a better idea to have a designated section with an image collection that can be heading with a switch? That really depends on your kind of setup, right? So I think what's important, I don't want to dive into that particular use case, but build out your layout and understand which field. So if you're going to have a call to action between specific sections of your blog post, then yeah, I would probably use the switch with a field that says whether or not to show it, right? So you would have multiple rich text fields with a field between the two to have a call to action. That is probably what I would recommend, but I think that's where it's important to structure and think about your CMS structure and think of all the different use cases that could be built. So maybe a takeaway from that is maybe as a next stream, we could build how to toggle things on and off and the impact it could have on the design of the page. So let's imagine we have 2, 3, 4 different layouts that we want for our content based on the fields. We could actually do a stream where we talk about how to structure your CMS correctly based on the different use cases that your blog can take. Cool. Okay, I'm still seeing some questions. So we have a question. Is it possible to disable blog posts and keep them searchable for SEO? I'm not sure what you mean by disable Mike. So I believe if you archive a page, it will no longer be indexed by Google because it'll no longer be accessible, right? So if your question is, can you have a blog post that is no longer live on your website, but still be indexed? The answer is probably no. So a question from Moodbased is, how would you go about properly creating structured slugs in tag collections? You are correct in the sense that if you create, so I want to show my browser here, just a moment, and talk a little bit about what the question is from Moodbased, is if you go into tags, and let me go into design here, let me refresh. So the URL structure here, if I go to this page, and let me go to this page, it's going to be /tag. It's not going to be slash, sorry, if I go to my blog post, I think what I'm hearing here is that you would like this to be /tag or /blog post /tag /URL. There's no way to do that on Webflow today. Cool. So that is correct. URL structure is based on the collection and not on the reference field within your collection. Okay, I'm still seeing some question. So there's a question from Bilal. Does Webflow create the robot.cxc? The answer is yes. That is created automatically in terms of when you build on Webflow. Cool, cool, cool. So we have about 2 minutes here. I do want to answer some questions. Do we have any other questions, Nelson? There's a question around, can we make posts interactive? There are third-party tools that you can use to add comments to your blog post. I think I saw a video that uses Webflow logic with a CMS collection of posts, comments. I'm not sure. Maybe Keegan was the one who created that, so check that out. Cool. Well, we'll come back here. That is how to scale your blog workflow in Airtable. Really appreciate all of you coming. I'm going to spend 30 seconds saying this outro, so give you time to go ahead and fill out the form so you can see your name in the credits. But I do want to thank all of you for coming. It was so fun. I love building these CMS collections. I'm hearing some feedback that maybe we want to build some more complex use cases. Absolutely, I would love to build out more complex CMS use cases. So Nelson will be back next week. He's going to build a Super Mario Bros. Intro scene using Webflow. So do check that out. You can check out same place, same time next week. And without further ado, I want to thank you all for coming. So let's roll the credits here. And let me bring this up. Here we go. Who do we have today? We've got, thank you to the team. We've got Bilal, we've got Paul, Peter, Marhouse, Diamondy, Sherelle, Tari, Mr. Webbay, Olamidi, Skylar, Mike, Corey, Cooper, Diki, Mustafa, Ron, Penny, Nifama, Sarah, Riley, Tar, Constantine, Sylvana, Maxlin, Design Dynamo, Animation Alchemist, Jermaine, and Lewis. Thank you all so much for joining me this week, and I hope to see you in a couple weeks. Thank you all. Have a great day, everyone.